This video is about a little table that I built from some very distressed wood. The wood came from my neighbor. He had a large maple tree with a limb hanging over his garage, and a tree service cut the limb down and left all the pieces in his yard. When I noticed it, the wood looked pretty interesting. So I knocked on his door and asked what he was going to do with the wood, and he gave it to me. So I brought it to my workshop and started making things from it. I made a few sculptures and some really interesting bowls. But I couldn't use all the wood right then, and my barn was already full, so I needed to store it somewhere. I stacked it all on a skid in my yard and covered it with a tarp. Now, this can be a little bit risky. Even though the tarp protects it from the rain, it also holds in the humidity and prevents ventilation. So all that moisture encourages microorganisms to grow. That can be a good thing if it creates a condition called spalting in the wood, which can create all these really interesting colors and lines and textures. On the other hand, the wood can just rot or be totally eaten by insects. So, 5 years later, I thought I should probably check on the wood. When I lifted the tarp, it actually looked like the wood had been shot by a shotgun. There were all these little holes, and then I noticed sawdust that had streamed out of the little holes, and then I knew that it had been attacked by powderpost beetles. So I took a closer look, and really the spalting had developed very nicely. And all those little holes and tunnels chewed by the beetles added a lot of character to the wood. Now it also weakens the wood a little bit, but I was confident that if I saturated the wood with clear epoxy, not only would it strengthen the wood, but it would add a lot of depth and character and really make those colors and textures jump out. It could be something really amazing. So the rest of this video is about the steps it took to turn that very distressed wood into an interesting little table. On with the show. The belt sander has done a pretty good job of cleaning up the chainsaw tracks. I've done the far half of this board. You can see here what the chainsaw tracks look like. Those are the marks from cutting it with the chainsaw sawmill, and they're pretty severe. See if I can get a better view there. They're pretty deep, but this 36 grit belt on the belt sander takes that down pretty quickly. Well, that chainsaw divot was so severe, I'm not gonna take it all the way off or sand it all the way down. I think what I'll do, this was the worst side of the board, so that's just gonna become the bottom of the table. There's also a big mark here from the original cut. Again, I'm just gonna leave that. It'll be the underside of the table. It'll just be part of the history of the board.
first we have to line this edge of the wood up exactly, and then mark the cut lines here, because these are not exact 45-degree angle cuts. This gap is a little bigger than the one at the other end because the top board is wider at one end than at the other end. So I had to kind of fine-tune these angles to fit the top board.